back to Before the Bell here on MMA Oddsbreak. I'm Frank Trigg. That is Nick Kalikas, the odds maker. UFC Fight Night coming up tomorrow night, Saturday night. Wow, it's going to be a big one. Are we going to see the real Cowboy Cerrone this time come out against Till? Is it the question? You know, because Cowboy seems to get to the top and then lose one and then get back to the top and then lose one. It looks great getting there, but hasn't been doing very well on the top end of it. I want to see him have a great outing in this one. But first, we're going to talk about the co-main event. Number 3, and forgive me, I might butcher her name, Karolina Kowalkiewicz. Is that right, Nick?
I believe you know me, I butcher names all the time as well. So I think it's Kowalkiewicz.
Kowalkiewicz. You're right. Kowalkiewicz versus Jodie Esquibel. 10-2 with Karolina, 6-2 with Jodie. You got to give the edge to Karolina. She's obviously ranked number 3 for a reason at the weight class. And really, are they just trying to build up Karolina's reputation with this fight? Because I really don't see, I got to be honest, I don't see how she loses this fight.
Yeah, it's a tough one, and the line indicates that right now as well. I mean, Kowalkiewicz is coming in right now at minus 550. The comeback on Esquibel is at plus 425. So I opened her just under 4-1 favorite, and the betting action came in and bet it up to over 5-1, obviously, as you see now. So, yeah, the backers out there realize that this is just stylistically a tough matchup for Esquibel. As she's making her UFC debut, she comes from a good camp, the Jackson's camp, and she's not a bad fighter. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, she's going to usually be better than a 5-1 underdog in most cases. But like you said, Kowalkiewicz is, one of the top in her division right now. So to come in making your UFC debut and pick off somebody like that, it's just not really realistic at this point, especially how they match up. I just think Kowalkiewicz, is just a little bit better probably in all areas here. And it probably stays on the feet as she outstrikes her for a win.
And the thing about Karolina, too, is that she's got great energy. She makes most of her wins are via decision. So this fight's going to go to a decision because most of Jodie's wins are via decision as well. But don't let that confuse you that Jodie can finish and so can Karolina. I just don't see how Karolina's going to lose on this one because she's better stand up, like you said. She's better on the ground, like you said. She's better at getting back up to her feet if she needs to. She's better at wrestling takedown defense, in my opinion, and has better cardio. So there's just all the factors that come into this fight. Karolina, to me, seems like it wins. If I'm hearing the line that you gave it to me at, it's basically leave this one alone type line, right?
Yeah, you have to, because I don't really see true value on the underdog here. Mm-hmm. And I think, where the value was at one point, the bettors that came in and got that price early on the favorite, I think they already took all the value away from it. So at this point, 5.5-1, because like I said, Esquibel is not really, she's not a bad fighter. I mean, she's a decent fighter. She can win some fights in the UFC, but just not this fight. So I think you just stay away from it, watch it as a fan. It should be a pretty good fight. It'll be competitive at times. There's no doubt about that. But still, I think it's going to be clear for Kowalkiewicz to get the W here.
All right, I like it. Let's move on to the main event. Cerrone and Till. This is an interesting matchup. Cerrone's number 6. Darren Till is unranked at this point. Cerrone, of course, with his great record of 32-9 versus Darren's record of 15-0-1, which makes this very interesting because Darren's not scared. He's never lost. He doesn't have that feeling of I'm in trouble. He really likes to push the pace. He's a great, brutal striker. He's not a technical striker, but he's a very brutal striker, and that's how he wins a lot of his matchups. The height difference is that Donald is taller, so you automatically assume that his long, rangy hooks are going to be able to work for him on the outside. But the reach advantage actually goes to Darren, who has an inch reach advantage. So it's like, so now all of a sudden they're equal. Yeah, Donald's an inch taller, but Darren is an inch longer. So now let's see how this is gonna pan out. How do you see this fight coming out?
Man, it's a great fight. I mean, like you said, it's kind of the guy that's been towards the top of the lightweight division and the welterweight division versus a guy that's kind of trying to break in and get a future title shot if he can string together a couple wins. And getting a win over a guy like Donald Cerrone for Till puts him right in the mix. I mean, he's going to be definitely one of the guys everybody wants to see take that next step, next level. So, I mean, Till is an outstanding fighter. I think this is a tough matchup for Cerrone, believe it or not. Mm-hmm. I mean, Till's a southpaw. Like you said, the reach is going to be similar here. I think basically it comes down to Till being a little bit younger, fresher, a little bit more hungry at this point. I think he could do some damage where Cerrone, he's tough as nails. He's very hard to get rid of. I mean, Masvidal was the only one, as of late that was able to accomplish that task. And we know Masvidal is a special type of striker. I think Till can kind of duplicate some of those things, though, and be a tough matchup for Cerrone. So at the current price right now, I really do think people are underestimating Darren Till. I've done it in the past as well. I think this kid's legit. He's the real deal. He's only getting better fight by fight. So I got all the respect in the world for Cerrone. I know how good he is. I mean, he's tremendous in all areas, but I just think this probably ends up staying up on the feet. And if so, Till does a little bit more damage along the way and probably wins this fight.
The only real way I see that Donald has a clear advantage is on the ground. And not necessarily being on the bottom. He's got to be on top of Till. If he's underneath him, I think Till beats him up a little bit. I think that's still pretty even. Even though Donald is very good off his back, I think Till will nullify him with the strike, so it becomes a nullified game at that point. But if Donald gets on top, I see him being able to beat up Till. But I just don't think Till is going to be that easy to take down. And if he does get taken down, he's worked very hard on getting back up to his feet. So really, at this line, what do I do?
You got to jump on the dog, I think, here. Plus 145, plus 140s out there. I think right now it's actually minus 160 for Cerrone. The comeback is around plus 140 at 5 dimes. And again, you'll see maybe plus 135s, 140s out there. Anything, I think my opener was around plus 125, and I honestly thought that the public would favor a little bit more Donald Cerrone, and that's really the case. You know, I think they are getting two-way actions at the sports books, but the dog did get some heavy action at one point as well. Till did get some respect, but now we're starting to see more money flow in on Cowboy Cerrone as well, which is expected really with his fights. And again, what he's accomplished throughout his UFC career, a lot of people don't believe that Till's up for the task. He's not ready for this step. Like I said, I think they're all wrong. I think that Till is ready for this step. It's a good matchup. You know, I mean, Cerrone, I know he has a lot to lose in this spot, but for the UFC, it's a win-win situation. Cerrone wins. He stays in that mix of, you know, respectable fighter, future title contender. If he loses, you got a young gun that just basically took a huge step up, you know, towards a title contender himself. So I think it's a win-win fight for the UFC, a great matchup. But I do think it's a dog or pass situation, so you got to take the dog.
I like what you're saying here, and also want to add in one other caveat in this whole mix-up. Obviously, Cerrone's coming from New Mexico, and Darren Till is coming from England. The fight is in Poland. So the time difference change in the travel arrangements for Till are much easier. Getting from England over to Poland, it's one flight over, versus Cerrone is going to be pretty much an all-day trip. Now, of course, it came in 5 days ago. Don does very well on the road, so that may not mean that much, but also, too, in the co-main event, Karolina's from Poland, so she's not moving very far to fight Esquibel, who's also coming from New Mexico and the same camp that Cerrone's out of. So this is a very interesting matchup, this main event. I'm super excited to see how this comes out. Personally, because I want to see Cerrone get to the top. I want to see him really make a good run at it. I think he's better suited for 170. He's just cutting too much weight down to 155. But I'm also super scared for Till. Till is one of those guys that not super scared for Till, but scared of Till, because he is one of those guys that everyone's kind of discrediting. Like you said, they don't think he's ready for it. He 100% is ready for this fight and 100% ready for the task. And I got to believe if he beats Cerrone in devastating fashion, they're going to have to put this guy together as you know, because England has very few guys that you can actually look toward to kind of carry the country when it comes to UFC. Till beats Cerrone, you've got to put him in that top echelon very quickly, because now he's a guy that can actually contend in 1 or 2 more fights for the title.
Yeah, he's a superstar in the making, really. I mean, he's marketable. You know, he's got the talk, he's got the looks, he's got the skill set to go along with it. I mean, Darren Till can be a really popular fighter. Definitely, I mean, there's no ceiling to his game right now. So a big win here would get him a long way for sure.
Very interesting matchups coming up here tomorrow night. Very, very good. Once again, UFC put together a great card for a Fight Pass card, because that's what it is for us here in America. Obviously, in other parts of the world, you see it differently, but we see it here on Fight Pass, and it's an amazing card for what we consider a free card. You know, and this is they actually gave us a good main event, a decent co-main event. We'll see how it all pans out. I'm interested to see how it goes, but the undercard also is very good as well. So, any final remarks, Nick, before you get out of here?
No, like I said, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, I think it's a good card. It'll be a fun card. Not a ton of star power minus the main event, like you said. But outside of that, there's some intriguing matchups from top to bottom. So it should be another UFC Fight Pass card that delivers, really. So looking forward to it.
That's Nick Kalikas. I'm Frank Trigg. You're watching us here on MMA Oddsbreaker. We're before the bell. We'll see you again next week.